Kilatory Éireann going to give us a bit of performance now before we have the official business of reopening the market house. So I'd like to ask you to extend a warm applause to Rathneska Kiltas Kilatory Éireann. Well done, everybody. Fantastic. Now, before we have the official speeches and all that, we're going to have
Thanks, John.
Minister Charlie Flanagan, here at the Laois County Council, Father Jim O'Connell, Reverend Alec Percival. It was a 3-year project, and the old saying that a long threatening comes at last brings with it a sigh of relief to a committee that at times had to endure the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. I can tell you this, with my hand on my heart, the restoration of heritage building is not for the faint-hearted. The Restoration Committee, in their wisdom, took on 2 such projects. One at the new toilets in the playground, which replaced the old toilets and unsightly toilets which were here, and the Market House restoration itself. And but for the cooperation and patience of the many who helped us out in our hour of need, neither project would have come to fruition. On behalf of the committee, I would like to take this opportunity to say thanks to the many people who made this project possible. Firstly, without finance, we can do nothing. You know that, Father Jim. And I would like to thank Laois Partnership for providing the necessary funding and the expertise of CEO Anne Goodwin and Project Officer Orla O'Mara, whose advice and attention to detail was invaluable. I'm going to get a drink of water now. When you secure finance, you have to secure the best possible expertise for the job. And we're fortunate enough to engage the services of Richard McLaughlin, a Ballybritis native and conservation architect. Richard's attention to detail and his endeavour to have everything as it should be sometimes irritated the contractors and subcontractors, but perfection is his speciality, and I'm sure you'll agree that it is reflected in this fine structure that you see before you. Now I would like to thank those who had to bear the brunt of all those changes and who displayed the patience of Job in the process, for the toilets at the Green, and all the various subcontractors on both projects, in particular Brendan St. John, as Christy and Darren Moran, John Murphy, Kevin Mulhall Stone, Brendan Lynch Construction, with McKeown Stone supplying the limestone material. The committee were glad to see local contractors and materials being used on the renovation where possible. To make the project possible, the community had to be in a position to secure a long lease on the site. And Adrian Cosby, the owner, graciously granted us a 50-year lease at peppercorn rent, and for that we are very, very grateful. I would also like to thank a person who cannot be with us here today, but I'm sure she's here in spirit, and that is Orla Barrett, Senior Executive Engineer with Laois County Council. Orla took a keen interest in the project and provided us with support whenever required from day one. I cannot let this opportunity pass without acknowledging the support of former County Manager Peter Carey, Director of Services Anne-Marie Delaney, Chief Planner Angela McAvoy, Heritage Officer Catherine Casey, and all the personnel of the Eastern Engineering area of Laois County Council. There is one person from Laois County Council I would like to thank, and that is Dom Redden, Laois Tourism Officer. Not alone is he an efficient and effective tourism officer, but he is a top-class photographer as well. Most of the photographs you see on the programme today were taken by him and at no cost to the committee. Despite a widespread appeal for photographs or drawn of the old table, which had been taken out over 50 years ago, none were forthcoming. Until one day Tom Lawler approached me and said, I think Jerry knows all the measurements of the old table. He repaired it when he was an apprentice carpenter in Comfort's Joinery before he went to work in England. Well, he did remember the measurements down to the very tower, and duly drew them out for the architect. The market table, to the measurements given by him, now stands proudly in the centre aisle of the building. Today is the reopening of a unique building on the main street of Stradbally, and by our very presence here this glorious afternoon, we are also paying tribute to a man who was held in high respect and affection by the people of this town and surrounding district. I refer of course to Dr. William Percival, whose memory this market house was erected in 1899. A humble person by all accounts, as no headstone or monument marks his final resting place in St. Patrick's, but his memory lives on in this building. Today we are honoured to have here present a descendant of the good doctor, Patrick Percival from Westford, and his wife. And Patrick will jointly cut a tape with Minister Flanagan later on in the proceedings. 3 years ago, the Market House was a structure in a state of sorry dereliction that no authority or organisation wanted. There was fear of the iron roof caving in, such was the perilous state of the property. A small dedicated committee was formed that consisted of Mary Whelan, Tom Donoghue, Paddy Nolan, Margaret Delaney, Margaret Cushion and myself. As it was always our aim that if we were going to do the job, we were going to do a proper job. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you will have to agree with me that what you see before you here today is a proper job.
Caller, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to congratulate James Deegan and his dedicated team for seeing this project through, and you can see for yourselves what an excellent job they've done. This fine example of what public-spirited men and women can achieve, as is also the children's playground recently completed. Now, it's right and proper that we should appreciate the life and works of the good Dr. Percival with a practical memorial which is also a public amenity. My family and the Stradbally Market date back to the middle of the 17th century, when the second Alexander Cosby entertained King Charles II so well that he obtained the right to have a market every day of the year in Stradbally. Only 7 towns in Ireland have that right. And I also must congratulate Mary Delaney for discovering this just in time before all the old laws not to exercise were abolished. And except for this restoration period, that right has been vigorously exercised after her discovery. When China and India and other emerging nations start buying up world food, we shall be more and more dependent on local produce. In England now and France, the farmers are actually selling their produce at markets. And and in Greece, the fresh vegetables are sold in the street and the leftovers are given to the supermarkets. The vegetable growers therefore get a fair price. Maybe this will happen here and the market will come into its own. This occasion prompts me to mention another outstanding doctor, the late Dr. John O'Connell, who practiced in Portlaoise and was a devout Christian whose hands had been blessed by the Pope. He had worked under the most difficult circumstances in the old Portlaoise hospital. His patients were often on straw, but what was the amazing thing was that they all recovered. He was delighted when the present hospital was built. He was very strict even with the nuns who worked there, and the hospital then had a very high standard. He treated me and my great-grandfather and the staff working in our house, and I always recovered quickly. I mention him as I wondered if the good people of Portlaoise might honour him as the people of Stradbally have honoured Dr. Percival. He could have earned a huge salary in Dublin, but he chose always to stay in Portlaoise. He was an inspiration to me, and I must say, rather sadly, I had difficulty even in finding his grave in Portlaoise Cemetery. There's still much to be done in Stradbally. We have no basketball gym as other towns have, and I've been seeking for nearly 30 years hobby centres where clubs can do carpentry, metalwork and pottery, as in boarding schools provide. The Art Centre and the old courthouse is but a start. There's considerable talent in this town of Stradbally, and it should be tapped. It will also produce a healthier society, especially if the youth have something constructive and wider interests. Once again, I congratulate the Stradbally Market Restoration Committee. I'm also glad I was able to help out in a small way with the legal side of it.
Thank you.
Gaelic of Laois County Council, John Joe Fennelly, Deputy Fleming, Senator Whelan, members of Laois County Council, former members of Laois County Council, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honour for me to have been asked to perform this official event here in the great town of Stradbally, and I'd like to thank James Deegan, the chairman of the committee, Marie Cushion, and other members of the committee, and indeed the wider community for inviting me here this afternoon. Stradbally town is looking wonderful today, and all the voluntary committees have ensured that Stradbally is in really fine fettle. It was great earlier to see the sun out. I think it's going to make a reappearance, and I'd like to thank James Deegan for even making sure Hell's Angels are in town. At least a very few moments ago. Whether they're coming back or not, I don't know. I want to acknowledge the presence of the parish priest, Father Jim O'Connell, Reverend Alex Purser, former parish priest Father Sean Kelly, distinguished guests Adrian Cosby, Tom Cosby, Peter O'Neill, Sean Dunn, and everybody. This is the grand reopening of the famous Stradbally Market House. It marks another exciting milestone in Stradbally town, symbolic of what is a fine future ahead. I feel I know this old market house all my life. My father was from Monmelick, my mother was from Greycullen. Every Sunday in the 1960s we made the trip from Monmelick to Greycullen, and as everybody here knows, you can't go from Monmelick to Greycullen without going through Stradbally. We looked at this ancient building. My father used to say that it was one of a kind, that it was unique, that there was a building such as this or a structure like this in no other town, no other village in the country. Maybe he was right, I don't know. James can probably confirm. I haven't seen one, but I think it's wonderful to see it in all its glory, restored well into the 21st century. I'd like to just acknowledge the commentary of Adrian Cosby, a noted historian himself, on indeed the contribution of Dr. Percival, and I'm delighted that Michael Percival is here. He claims he's not a descendant, but I think for today he must be. I'd also like to acknowledge the contribution of Dr. O'Connell, indeed, to the wider community of Portlaoise. I don't remember Dr. O'Connell, but I do remember his son, Father Barry O'Connell, who gave me my first communion in Monmelick in the early 1960s. So a lot of our history comes together here in Stradbally this afternoon at this unique building, which really enhances the historic landscape of Stradbally town. It's an architectural gem. It always played a most important role in the community, and indeed it retains very much the history of Stradbally under its roof. The restoration project we admire today was a huge undertaking. It took the committee over 3 years to complete. It was a difficult undertaking, as James Deegan said, even to get credit and finance.
Good work in us. Blessed be the name of the Lord, now and forever. Jesus showed us the dignity of labour. He was known as the carpenter's son, and he willingly worked with the tools of his trade. To the labour of our hands, we bring God's blessing upon ourselves and upon others. Let us pray for all who will work here and who have worked here, and for those who will share the fruit of the labour. We gather here this afternoon to reopen and rededicate this market house. But let us first of all look back over the many years that have passed and give thanks and remember those who had the foresight to erect this building for the good of this community. But let us remember also those who have gathered here today to trade, to do business, and to gather with laughter in their buying and in their selling, in their conversations. We look back over those past days, we give thanks, we stand here today in the present, but as we stand here in the present, we look forward. We look forward to the future with hope, with reassurance that this building will once again become alive and be a place of gathering, a place of conversation, and a place of laughter.
Our Provident Father, you have placed the earth and its fruit under our care, so that our labour will, through our labour, we will endeavour to ensure that all share the benefits of your creation. Bless those who will use this building, either as buyers or sellers, those who will shelter under its roof, so that by respecting justice and charity they will see themselves as working for the common good and find joy in contributing to the progress of this our community. We ask this through Christ our Lord. And now together with this the final blessing, I'll be extended the cross. May God the Father of goodness, who command us to help one another as brothers and sisters, bless this building and with his presence, and look kindly on all who enter here. Amen. May Almighty God bless us, bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And did Irish Water send down the cook today?
Now I'd like to invite Mr. Flanagan and our invited guest, Mr. Patrick Percival, who's travelled from Rossbeg, Westport, County Mayo, to jointly cut the ribbon and declare the grand reopening of the Market House. All enjoy a wonderful day in the spotlight, much deserved.